We were looking for a place like downtown. There's no temple yet in Bombay at all, except our little apartment. And so we thought, well, maybe it's an ashram or something, it would be all right. And we told Prabhupada about it. He was thrilled. He came to Bombay immediately and said, perfect. He wanted to go out there. It was right next to Srimati Morarji's place, his initial sponsor. So we visited with her, and then we looked at the land. Prabhupada was just thrilled that this guy was going to donate it. And then, of course, he didn't. He tried to retract his promise and so on, after we'd given him some money. And you know the story, it's all in here. It was rather got very nasty. The police came and tried to break up the temple at one point. But Prabhupada was tenacious about keeping this place. So he had Tamal, Krishna, and I taking this man to court. And every day we fought in the courts, down the high courts just off Cross Maidan there in downtown Bombay. And we were staying with a life member out by Juhu, so we had to go back and forth by taxi every day with the briefs and stuff and the depositions. Bring him to Prabhupada, and he was the perfect lawyer. He'd put on his horn-rimmed glasses. And he'd say, well, this is how you answer this point. And I'd write it down. And next day we'd go into the court and present our side. It was Prabhupada fighting through us. He was fighting the legal thing through us. He was the perfect attorney also. Every time the guy came up with a point, Prabhupada defeated it. It was unbelievable. So then Nair got more and more frustrated because we were really winning, in the courts. It looked, like he couldn't get out of this. And then ultimately, Prabhupada was told that he died. And he was actually Prabhupada seemed to be quite happy that he died.
Oh, so the land was got after he died?
So his widow then came to Prabhupada and fell down and said, it's a drop off. And now if you go to Jew, oh my God, how far Prabhupada saw ahead of us, because there were so many times Tamal Krishna and the other so-called big guys around Prabhupada were ready to just give it all up. We thought it was too remote, nobody would come there, it was too much fighting over nothing. And now if you see it, it's right in the center of Bombay. Bombay's gone another 15 or 20 miles the other way. And it's the most probably prestigious property in the Bombay area now.
They're expanding that to build, what was that, the heaven, they're expanding the Radharas Bihari.
Yeah, because the tenants in that old apartment building, according to the original contract, could not be evicted. We had to wait until they died off or whatever.
They've broken those buildings.
So they've taken them down now.
Yeah.
Everybody's moved out.
Correct. They're expanding. I think they're going to build something like the planetarium they have in Delhi.
Yeah.
Something like that. They're coming up with that. The Bhagavad Gita experience.
Now we have thousands of life members. I was in the first party that went to India, to Bombay.
Was Giriraj Maharaj with
Yes,
you?
he was with us.
I'm aspiring for
Are you? He was just a young boy, like me. Giriraj is a special person. His father was very wealthy and prominent, I believe an attorney in Chicago. For his son to wind up in this movement was a major blow to his family.
I remember reading in his book, Watering the Seed, his father came and he told, his mother was very concerned about his health. So Prabhupada told him that, okay, Giriraj, from next time onwards, from tomorrow onwards, have 1 dozen rasgullas and sandesh, and he'll be fine. I was reading in his book. He told his dad.
But in the early days, the first crew that came into Bombay, we didn't know anybody. And I'll tell you something too, that Krishna was not named Krishna was not even well known in India in those days. Nobody worshipped Krishna, especially in Bombay. There was no Krishna temples. He was just thought of as a one of these kind of cartoon gods that demigods that has some, because he looks nice with Radharani and stuff. Krishna, the name of Krishna was practically gone from India. Prabhupada came into and saved his country in the nick of time. Within a year's time, less than that, within 6 months' time of our arrival there, the name of Krishna was on everyone's lips in the whole country. It became so famous so fast. And it took kind of like the Western PR techniques that we were all familiar with to do that. When we first came to India, there was no such thing. Now you go to India and you see all the hoardings with the big shows, Hindi movies, and advertising. Everywhere is advertising, and every square inch has got advertising on it. In those days, it wasn't there. There was nothing like that. So we started it. Prabhupada's his first Pandal program across by now in Bombay, in 71, I think it was. We plastered the town with advertising. We got some life member to donate a side of his skyscraper, and we wrote Hare Krishna for 10 floors. And, you could see it all over Bombay. We got a balloon with Hare Krishna and lights blinking like this, so you could see it way up in the air all over Bombay at night. And that Cross Maidan program, millions and millions of people came over the 2 weeks that it was there in the center of Bombay. And it torched the whole country. From Bombay it spread everywhere. These Hare Krishnas, that's our religion. And then they knew after a time also that it was the real thing. At first everyone thought it was just like a bogus, like Rajneesh or something like that. They made that movie Hare Krishna, Hare Ram that made fun of us, that we were all ganja smokers and all that. But even when we told Prabhupada about this movie, he says, never mind, he says, you're hearing the name Krishna.
That did good.
Yeah.
It's popularized.
Yeah.
People knew it.
It was the most popular movie ever in Indian history to that time.
But actually there's a very good song in the favor of Krishna.
Damara Dam.
No.
Yeah.
There was one song which was in favor. You are not really getting into the depth of it. You're not doing what Krishna did, what Krishna said. You're just following the wrong things out of it.
I see. Yeah, I went out and talked with that Devanand shortly after that. I said, you're misrepresenting us in many ways here. He was very contrite. He was very apologetic. He said, well, in the beginning we didn't know about you people. We didn't realize that you were the real thing. He became a life member.
Maybe you can tell us how you met George Harrison first time.
Well, there again it goes back to Prabhupada. He told us, number one, your main activity in life as a devotee, as a disciple, is to spread Krishna consciousness. And the most effective way to spread Krishna consciousness is to go to the leaders of society, the leaders of mankind, and convert them. Then everyone else will follow. This is all from Bhagavad Gita. So it was our plan early on. We were in San Francisco in the late 60s, the Beatles, where we could see were emerging as the voice of our generation. And George had met Ravi Shankar and began to have some interest in Indian things and Indian philosophies. He didn't really know what he was talking about, but he had these kind of cosmic ideas. And they met Maharishi. They went to India and had some experiences there with Maharishi. So Mukunda and I began to think, we didn't really like to hear about Krishna, Hare Krishna. So and here's another example of how Krishna helps. I mean, we knew that Prabhupada wanted a temple started in London. That was a very important thing to him because his spiritual master wanted one so badly. Bhakti Siddhanta wanted a temple in London so badly. And to Prabhupada, who was brought up in the British Raj, London was the capital of the world. So he always had a deep place in his heart to have a temple in London. At that time, there were only temples in New York, San Francisco, and a couple of other places in the States. There were yet no overseas temples. This was about 67, late 67. So I got this idea that we should go to London because the scene seemed to be changing from Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. The scene seemed to be switching over to London. That's where kind of all the new trends were coming from. And just at that moment, we had no money in San Francisco in those days. We were poor as church mice. But just at that moment, I received out of the sky, I received a big chunk of money. Not a big chunk, a couple $1,000, which was a lot of money in those days. And I thought immediately that we should go to London and use this money to start a center there. And I didn't realize how long we'd been thinking about George Harrison until I looked back through the database and saw Prabhupada's old letters. And there's one back dated in February of '68 to Mukunda, and he says, Mukunda, he says, what do you think of Shyamsunder's idea of going to London to meet George Harrison? So it must have been a part of our thinking. Just, well, we're just going to go do it. That's all. So we did. We, in August of '68, we got on a one-way ticket. That's all we had money for. One-way ticket to London from New York. They were $65 one way on Icelandic Airways. And they dropped you in Amsterdam, but not England. And then to get into England and have a visa, you had to prove that you had so much money in the bank. So we had enough money for one couple at a time to go. So 3 couples went. Jamuna and her husband Gurdas, Malati and I, and Mukunda and his wife Janaki, 3 couples. And I went in first with the money. We had $600 and some cash, and I opened a bank account. They allowed me then on a visa because I could prove financial worth. I opened the bank account, and a couple of days later, I wired it over to Amsterdam to Mukunda. He came over with his wife and used the same trick with the same money. Then we did it a 3rd time and got Gurdas and Jamuna in. So we all snuck into the country basically with no money. But we had this desire and dream that we were going to meet George Harrison and start making Krishna conscious. So we began trying every trick in the book to get his attention. And little by little, we fed enough information through his secretaries, and we'd stop by there at his office all the time till he kind of got to know us and accept us a little bit. And one day I got a call from the airport from a friend of mine who was the manager of a rock and roll group called Grateful Dead. He was an old friend of mine in San Francisco. And he says, Sam, I'm out here at the airport with a couple of members of the Dead, and Ken Kesey and Sonny Barger, who's the president of the San Francisco Hells Angels, and a couple other characters. He said, we've come to see the Beatles. He said, can we stay at your house, at your place? And we had a warehouse in Covent Garden, the old vegetable district in downtown London. I said, sure. I went out and picked them up, and they came over and stayed with us. And they only stayed one night. We made them take their shoes off. You didn't really want to be around when the Hells Angels take their boots off. But we knew Kesey from San Francisco days, and he's okay. But they didn't want to stay okay, it was they were too interested. We would never smoke. The doors were locked at a certain time. So they did stay one night with us, but it was enough to. And they were going to meet with the Beatles, or go to the Beatles' office the next day, and I said to Rock, do you mind if I tag along? Rock Scully was the manager. He said, no, why not? Come on. So I hung along with him. I came into the Beatles' office with him. And it was a big room, big waiting room, like lounge. Probably 100 people in there, along with Ken Kesey and the Grateful Dead and all these people. There were all kinds of other famous celebrities, and so I'm waiting to meet the Beatles, who were having a conference in a room at the end of this room. And we waited for hours. There was no place for me to sit, so I just kind of propped myself in the wall, the far wall, away from everybody. I didn't know anybody there. And about 3 hours later, one by one, the Beatles opened the door, first John, and they look around like this, ran out. Finally, George opens the door. He goes like this, and he does a double take. He sees me sitting over in the far wall, and he just comes walking right through everybody. Walks up to me and says, "Where have you been? I've been waiting to meet you."
Jai.
This is how Krishna works. That's the story. And from that day on, he became a devotee. Prabhupada said several times to him, "You are more than my devotee, you are my son, you are like my son." And a couple of years ago, when George passed, a few days before he left his body, his wife called me in India, and I came over and sat beside him in his last days. And he was very happy to leave. Holy Krishna conscious. He left in a blaze of glory. He left with great joy. Where do you see that? You don't see that. Prabhupada left that way. That's the goal of our lives, is to be able to develop our consciousness, to be so free of material fantasies, so finished with material life. We look forward to leaving this body, Hare Krishna, because we know that that's where we're going. We have to qualify ourselves to reach that point. George wrote song after song after song about that. He wrote one song called The Art of Dying. I remember that one. It was one of those. I think the all things must pass out. It's the purpose of life, is to learn how to die. He was a great soul.
Did he ever talk about when Srila Prabhupada left his body and how he felt about that?
You know, I didn't have that much contact with George after the 70s. I was busy developing my own businesses and stuff. And I wasn't around when Prabhupada left his body either. I'm sure George, I don't remember. We met in Vrindavan in 96. George, he spent a couple of weeks there with us. And we sat in Prabhupada's samadhi and talked about God, and one devotee was there, I don't remember who it was, who was there when Prabhupada passed. He described it to George. George was very, the tears were coming down his head. The Prabhupada. Now I see 30 years later. That's from in the same body. I'm still in the same body that I had then. I'm still in this kind of, I'm in this material world. with only those memories of Prabhupada. That is the best thing that could have ever happened to any of us. The best thing we could ever have is that special gift. I mean, Krishna even calls it my secret knowledge. He says, where do you get this knowledge? There are millions and billions of people in this world. that know this and know that. You think some people know everything and know all kinds of stuff, a lot more than you do. But you know the highest thing. You know it. You have it. You have the knowledge right there. 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of 1/10 of a percent of people on this planet. You know the ultimate truth, the absolute truth. Prabhupada's laid it all out. There's no gaps. It's so simple. We know the absolute truth. So it's our duty. Not only helps us become Krishna conscious to do it, but we have to spread this knowledge. You have to spread the knowledge of Krishna. It doesn't do you much good. You don't feel the benefit of it. And Krishna says, my dearmost devotee is the one who spreads the secret to others. Prabhupada doesn't expect miracles. He doesn't care if just one person becomes Krishna conscious. That's enough. That's better than millions half Krishna conscious. When I'm getting a little older now, I'm thinking more and more of these things. I need to myself personally get more involved in spreading Krishna consciousness again. Try certain ways to do that. Get free of my business life. It's almost over now. God. I mean, you're all businessmen. You have families. I went through the same thing. I have families, children, and businesses. But I'm 61 now. So I reached the end of that, pretty much that period. It's phasing out. I don't want to do it much more. It's so boring to have to keep working when we should be spreading Krishna consciousness. You can still spread Krishna consciousness while you're working. There's no doubt about that. Even when in the days of our most activity of spreading Krishna consciousness, we still had to. We were married, and I had a child to support, so I had to work too. But so there are ways that you can keep working and spread Krishna consciousness. And people sometimes ask me, well, how do you spread Krishna consciousness? Well, you have to attract. The art of Krishna consciousness is attraction. And there's so many ways. I mean, we're competing with so many other different things that attract people in this material world. So the clever person has to figure out a way to attract people that's different. People will see and become attracted to. It's different than other ways, other things. So what is your plan with this center? You're going to keep your tent mining project. And I got to meet the devotees there, the devotees in Armenia. I couldn't believe it. In Yerevan, which is the capital city of this ex-Soviet country, here were this wonderful group of devotees, like you people there. It's like there's no place you can go except to be with devotees. If you want to be with angels, a band of angels, you have to go see devotees. And it's the same. You get the same feeling with you guys. I get the same feeling with you guys as with those people in Yerevan or other places. Wherever there's a group of devotees sitting, it's so special. These small amount of people here know the absolute truth, and they know what real love is, what the goal of life is. We have a special thing that we share. But those devotees in Yerevan were so wonderful, so kind. And then I started listening to the stories that he told of the persecutions that they underwent and so on. Several of them were sent to prison camps in Russia, Gulag, up to 2 years for being devotees, for being Krishna devotees, and for refusing to turn in names of others who were devotees. They suffered like that. Imagine what they had to overcome. So you guys have it easy.
We did.
You got a little conditional use permit? What's that? Yeah. and they still do. It's the oldest Christian country in the world, so Christian church is very powerful, Orthodox Christian. So they have to overcome a lot of that kind of hierarchy. 2,000 years of it. Americans in the best field for developing Christian consciousness, but we've let it go down. It started here. It all started here with a boom. There's no reason it can't boom back again. You see the young people out today walking the streets. I mean, I have a daughter, children myself. I see how confused they are by this modern life. I feel so sad when I see a lot of them walking around lost, confused by it all. I thought our age, our generation had a confusing time maybe to live. Well, we had it easy. We were the Model T Ford era compared to now. These kids have so many problems. So it's the perfect place to start Christian consciousness with young people again. Get into, and I'm surprised how receptive young people are to Christian consciousness as soon as you present it. As soon as you tell them a few facts that underlie our philosophy, oh yeah. And a lot of that's due to the work that we've already done and that Prabhupada did. I'm sure, before Prabhupada came to America, words like karma, rebirth, transmigration of the soul, all those concepts, those didn't exist in this country. Now, you talk to any kid on the street, they all know that they're going to be reborn again, that they were something in a past life. Everybody knows that. And that whatever you do comes back on you, and that law of karma, they all know that now. So this is easy. This is a fertile ground. And the nice thing about Krishna consciousness is its long legitimacy, its line of justification. It's not a cult. It's not something new. It's not something pop culture. It dates back thousands of years, and those kinds of things need to be propagated again. Those ideas, young people get a chance. So if you guys get a center, make sure you have someplace, at least downtown. You know what they're doing in London? They've branched out now. They've got like the manor house outside in a country like this, where people can kick back. It's a nice, perfect ashramic life. But then they've got downtown. They've got their active center there with the restaurant in Soho, where they can preach right on the street and send Sankirtan teams out. All brahmacharis live there. And then they've got this, the scene has moved to a part of London called Camden Town. It's the young people's area where all the hip things are going on. They've got a Food for Life program and temple down there. It just packs in these poor drug addicts and everybody like crazy, and they're making devotees like crazy again amongst young people, saving young people. When you see those young people walking by, like your own daughter or something, and they're strung out on heroin, and they're going to become prostitutes to pay for it. And it just makes your heart break. And the same thing going on in downtown Portland. You can see it widely around downtown. Poor kids. You're going to have some way to reach them too. They'll become the devotees.
Yeah, that is the plan that we want to follow.
Good.
Just like Hari Vilas has set up.
That's right.
He's given us a plan how to do it, so we're just slowly following it and allowing things to go as they will.
Take off this next decade.
Yeah, this is going to be
All the old guys, I run into them around the world here and there. Old devotees, we're all ready to jump back in it.
There's a lot of old devotees around here, you see them in the oddest places sometimes.
Set it off. Off we'll go. Everyone I know that I've talked to in my age group, they're just sick of all this material life that they've had to compromise and go back to do over again. That we should, only to come back to the original position that everything we now understand that everything Prabhupada told us was true. But I think our realization was deeper now. It's a realization. We were all young kids, early 20s. We understood a lot of it, but we didn't realize it. And Krishna consciousness is magic, and it can be made magic in a way that really attracts people. We have to compete with the magic of the computer age.
I know, right? You're up to be a big boy. Seriously, she's fine.
How old?
She's